Forest Storm here. I'm going to be giving you guys a brief update for my Magicians list. I'm doing this as a live stream rather than a traditional deck profile because I don't feel like it warrants a full new video right after deck profile goes up. I'd rather just do it in live stream, explain some of the changes, and this is going to help tide you guys over. I do have a DDD video update coming for you guys, Dark Magicians, and I actually have a really cool Cyber Angel list I want to show you guys. Those are coming later this week. But the main thing is, so I went to locals a couple weekends ago, and I took Pendulum Magicians, and this is kind of the updated build after going to the event, and I went 4-1. My only loss was to Paleos. And the Paleo player game 1 opened mistake and I just couldn't play through it, and then game 2 I did see my side blocker and I was able to call Toad, but I wasn't able to play through it. But other than that, I played what did I play? Weatheries. I played against Weather Painters. I played against Harpies. I can't even remember all my matchups, but it was just a crazy, like, the amount of diversity of this format is just absolutely insane. But anyways, I'm gonna speed through this and go through it really quickly. So, first off, of course, we have the Sorcerer package. I think this is pretty standard in every Magician list. Astrograph is obviously the better card because it searches you, but Chronograph is a really good card as well because it allows you to get, if you open this and any normal summonable monster, you can get Electromite on board turn 1, which is really good. Time Gazer is also really relevant if your opponent's playing Wavering Eyes, which I don't play in this build. I'll explain why later. It allows you to keep if they have a Wavering Eyes set, you activate Chronograph, special summon Time Gazer. As long as Time Gazer's out, unless they have, multiples of these, they can't pop your scales, because it protects your scales once per turn while it's on as a monster, so that's really good. Overall, it's just really, I feel like it's a pretty standard lineup, and Astrograph's obviously an amazing card. Then 3 Wisdom Eye Magician. I know a lot of Magician players are cutting this down for some reason. I mean, let me know down in the comments if you have a reason why, but the card is absolutely amazing. Allows you to set your scales. It's a scale 5, and you can actually act with Oath Dragon. Speaking with Oath Dragon, 2 Oath Dragons. Oath Dragon's kind of one of the most important cards, especially in Master Rule 4, because it allows you to cycle back resources from the extra deck. You can also recycle your Odd Eyes extra deck monsters with its monster effect, which comes up sometimes, and also can grab Magicians as well. Then a card that went back to 3 was Black Fang. Black Fang I found a lot in my testing, both between online and actual, is that there's so many I roll through scales like it's like a hot knife through butter. And that's a lot of times, and it's mostly low scales I tend to blow through, which is weird. So, because you have Gate 0, which is a searchable low scale, so most of the time people are popping your high scales, so that's one of the reasons why you need the 3rd Black Fang, especially with Double Iris Band. It's kind of nice, and it helps you to grind through Solemns and other back row. Then 3 Harmonizing Magicians, one of the most important cards. It's a 1-card tutor for any level 8 or Synchro play. It can't be used with anything other than a Magician, but that's usually not an issue, and it doesn't list Link, so you can link it into an Electromite as well, or any other Link monster. Then 3 Purple Poison. It's still one of the most important cards. This allows you out so many things. I've seen players playing 2, and I really just can never justify that, because Purple Poison just allows you to out, like, the one normal summon Purple Poison can out pretty much any Floodgate, and its Pendulum effect allows you to beat over almost anything. It's unfortunate we don't have Joker, because that's one of the things that made Joker so powerful, was Joker on its own could out things like Masterpiece Diagram, so really, really strong cards. Then 3 copies of Darkroom along with 1 Gate 0. I've considered bumping this to 2 simply because it's just nice to have 2 O's because of the way Astrograph works, but I find 1 has been fine. These allow you can send this to the graveyard with cards like Pelham Call and Foolish Burial. Then if you control no monsters, you can special summon it out of the graveyard. Gate 0's, and then when it's ever its normal or special summon, it searches your Gate 0 here, or the other gate, but you don't really play that outside of the FTK build. Then for the last Pendulum monster is 1 Luster Pendulum. One of the new cards I added to the list was Pendulum Paradox, so I needed a scale 5 besides Wisdom Eye to be able to add back from my extra deck unless you're fit the bill. It's also, I think, a pretty decent card when we get Needle Fiber as well. And then for the hand traps, two of each of the Ghost Girls. I find that these have been fine for me. Ash usually came out in the mirror match for Effect Veiler here, so I know that I've heard the Ultra Rare is short printed, so Veiler is definitely a solid alternative, but obviously Ghost Ogre's a lot better against Magicians because you hit their Electromite, and same thing with Veiler, so Ash is still a really good card, because my locals is so rogue heavy at times. I find that just having the Ash for those matchups is really good, and then if you can always side it out if you need to. Then like I said, the new addition next is actually Pendulum Paradox. I think I pulled this in my winners thing last weekend, but it adds 2 face-up pendulum monsters with the same pendulum skill, but they have to have different names. So, and it's searchable by a Duelist Alliance. That's actually really good. You don't need it, but it's kind of nice to having a little extra play, and it can get you out of some pickles if you happen to have it. Then 3 Duelist Alliance. I still like this card. I still think it's really good, but obviously it's not as good because we don't have Double Iris anymore. But I still like having the card. I still think it's fantastic. Important thing to note, I didn't know this. You can activate if you're in the mirror match, you can just activate this right away if they have a card in Pendulum Scale. So it's pretty decent. Then for our last couple Duelist Alliance targets, besides of course the trap, we have 1-star Pendulum Graph and 2 Pendulum Calls. I found Pendulum Call to kind of be a little more needed now, so I bumped it up to 2, and 2 is kind of the perfect ratio with it, in my opinion. Star Pendulum Graphs are a really, really good card as well. Yeah, but with Pot of Desires no longer on this list, you really don't need to. Then Foolish Burial and Dragon Shrine. I am playing 42 cards, so I could definitely consider bumping this up to 2, but I find this is fine. These allow you to dump your Dark Worm, so you can special summon it and then get your Electromite on the board. And the last 2 monsters is 2 cards, is 2 Time Pendulum Graph. This card is absolutely just brutal. It allows you to grind through so much. Like this card single-handedly will win you games against back row heavy decks, because every turn you can pop anywhere from 2 to 4 cards. So it's just absolutely, it's an amazing card. It's just obviously not as good because we don't have Double Iris anymore. Then I think I'll actually go for the side next. So because I want to talk a little about this. So at locals last weekend, I was siding Wavering Eyes. I honestly don't think this card is good anymore. The main reason is Double Iris is now gone, and you also don't have Joker to search with it. You may not think, oh, most of the time I'm searching Astrograph anyways. Well, if you have Astrograph already in hand, you're more than likely already special summoned it, so you want to Wavering for Joker, but there's not really that, besides Astrograph, there's not a lot of good cards to search with it now. I know that sounds crazy, but the other thing is, if you're going second, the card's pretty bad because your opponent's going to negate it like 99% like most of the time in the mirror. And going first, if you're going first and setting a Wavering, that Wavering could be a Solemn Strike, a Solemn Warning, it could be a Dimensional Barrier. There's just better cards than this right now. With Double Iris banned, I do not see a reason to play this card. I know that sounds kind of crazy, thinking of how powerful this card once was, but I honestly, would not recommend it anymore, just because that's how I feel about it. But that's just me. Then first 2 side deck cards is 2 Effect Veilers. These, like I said earlier, if you don't have Ash Blossoms, these are definitely great alternatives. They often go in when I go second, and there's a lot of matchups where it's applicable, and in the mirrors, these usually get swapped out for my Ash Blossoms. Then 2 Side Blockers. This is one of my favorite side deck cards. If you're familiar with what it does, you summon it, call a card, and that card's turned off the rest of the turn. It works differently than Prohibition because you can turn off face-up Floodgate, so it's good going first because you can call whatever important card they need to go off. If you're in the mirror, you can call Electromite here. If you're playing first, you can even call it Evenly Matched. You're going second, and they have a Floodgate up, like Anti-Spell, you can call it. Just really, really good. 2 Dinko Sekkas. My locals always seems to have that one Paleo player running around, so I like having Dinko Sekka in here. That's the only reason really, but it's still, I think it's a pretty decent card. Then Cosmic Cyclone. These could definitely be Twin Twisters because I feel like True Draco's floating isn't as much of an issue anymore, but especially with return at 1. But I'm just kind of. I've been running Cosmic, so I feel pretty comfortable with it. Then the 1 Regeki, this just kind of gives you a board cleared for going second. Then, of course, these are the going first traps, which are Strike and Bury. Bury is good in the mirror for shutting down things and just other kind of random stuff that's running around if your opponent's playing like a ritual deck or something. And Solemn Warning, I feel like I've actually really been a huge fan of the Solemns this format. I find that every time I had them at locals, especially with Electromite, this allows you to draw cards. You can dig for them, and that's just really, really good. And I find that, the deck, you technically don't need all of these because the deck already goes first pretty effectively, but I still find I like having the option of siding one or the other. And for Link Monsters, I have the 1 Heavy Metal Foes Electromite. I would definitely be running 2, but again, I only have 1. It is a pretty expensive card right now, but it is absolutely amazing. I do not know if I would take this deck to an event without this card. It's that important. 1 Decode Talker and the 1 Zephyr Metatron for Link 3s. Decode is still pretty important because it gets you over really big things, But in the mirror match and some other matchups where you really don't want to give your opponent a spot to summon monsters, that's where Metaltron is really good. Its effects aren't that fantastic, but the 3 bottom markers is really, for length 3, is really good. It does take 2 extra deck monsters, but that's actually really easy because you just use Electromite and Absolute Dragon to make it. So that's actually really good. It's just nice to have the option because you need kind of, and then 1 Borlo Dragon. I made this card a ton. I think you could get away with not playing it, but I think the card just comes up so much that I think it's pretty dang good, and I like having it in here. Then for the fusion, the fusion plays, we have the Absolute Vortex package, and then the Dark, and then the Venom. These are pretty decent cards for obvious reasons. Vortex gives you a turn 1 play that's really good. Venom gets you around dinosaurs if they happen to Book a Moon your board. And Absolute Dragon is just a really good card as well. Then for the rank 4s, 1 Dweller, 1 Tornado Dragon, the 1 Baguska, and the 1 Time Star. Time Star is something I've been told people are cutting, and it's something I'm considering. But everything else is pretty standard. The deck has trouble dealing with floaters. Dweller takes care of that. Tornado clears back row. I might swap this out because I may be playing Evil Storm Nightmare, but the card still comes up on occasion, so I kind of like having it. And then, of course, 1 Dorito. This comes up a lot for negating spells and traps. For the synchros, we have Clearwing, Mega Nister. I cut Stardust simply because I'm not really seeing Wavering Eyes as much anymore. So I found that these guys are still pretty good, though. It's just nice to have. So anyway, guys, it about comes to the end of the video today. I got to hurry off. I got some plans this afternoon. But you guys can let me know what you guys think of my updated list down in the comment section below. And as always, thank you guys for watching. This is Aura Storm, signing out.